area where this campus is located.
Stamp after, you know, all the bad things we've heard about, you know, what skateboarders are and everything, every negative terminology that came along with that. And then secondly, why would they offer it to a Navajo woman artist? You know, there's plenty of other things to feature. So I eased into it with a caution, but I'm glad I, you know, went with the stronger gut feeling that said, you know, just do it. You never know. It could be something larger for yourself and larger for your community. So I went for it, and thankfully we're here now. And I think the favorite part of this opportunity for me was creating a skateboard I knew my community would be proud of. Like the way I inlaid the turquoise shards on the skateboard, you know, I knew that that skateboard was going to be going somewhere important. I didn't know where it's going to be going, where it's going to be stored, you know, who's holding on to it, but I instantly knew that I had to create something that, you know, kids in the future, well after I am deceased, can look at that skateboard and know that, you know, that was my best. And how people can be an ally and just, rather than, you know, like how Indigo said, you know, not tokenizing Native Americans, is just provide the space for us to tell our narrative. You know, provide the space that, you know, that the opportunity to be unfiltered and speak about things that are dear to me, like, you know, the excessive waste in the skateboarding community, but also the excessive waste in just the city life in general. There's many other topics I would love to get very passionate about, but I definitely know skateboarding is going to be the bridgeway and the pathway that is going to help kind of take me there through the large skateboarding community across the globe. So I'm excited, and thank you guys.
I think that a lot of times these brands can come to folks who are doing this on the ground work and can almost like try to speak for them rather than, you know, putting them on that stage themselves and allowing them to speak for themselves. And I think that one aspect of that is just kind of the fact that these larger corporations and even like skate shops we kind of discussed are essentially curators of what people in skateboarding see, and not just skateboarding, but then the broader media, right? And so they're really having the power, they're being the decision makers to decide who people do and don't see in the media. So when they come to these local organizations, for us specifically, with brands that we work with, we always want to be super upfront about our intentions. We're doing a lot of hard work on the ground to change the lives of people, really. And it's essential that the brands that understand that and know that we don't want this to just be like a one-time situation, or just a photo op or something that, you know, it kind of happens and it disappears. We want to have like actual sustainable relationships where they nurture us and our missions, so that we can actually make the real change that we want to see. And I think that in our initial, you know, expressing of what our intentions are, what we want to get out of this relationship, and then in turn helps them kind of tell us what they want, and also kind of holds them accountable. It's like, okay, like what are you coming to us for though? Like, how is this actually going to help us grow? Is this just like something that y'all wanted to do to try to hop on the bandwagon of like, you know, Black and queer skaters? That seems to be pretty popular right now. But so we also kind of try to pinpoint different ways that they can help us in more of a long-term way. So whether that's consistent partnership, if that's consistent donations, whether that's in kind or monetary, even if it's just like general mentorship to where they're just sharing their knowledge with us, or it could even be, you know, hiring. Like if there's someone who you've been working with who's a local person who has skills that you've been looking for, giving a young person a job, especially with like a huge corporation like a Nike SB or something like that, can work wonders for a person's future. And if it's not necessarily that, maybe it's a job referral or just some kind of way that you can help folks really kind of move the needle and push them forward in their skills, and yeah, in those tangible ways. So I think that's kind of like a starting point of yeah, ways that brands can kind of be responsible with their interactions with local works. project is based in St. Louis, where I was born. And there's only one skate park in North County, which is a very black county, and it's a bad skate park. And one of my hopes is that as I advocate, it helps other people, first of all, learn about what makes a good skate park, and also gain the confidence themselves to advocate for more skate spaces. And so, you know, it's part of our responsibility to go to the city and help them understand like why this skate park isn't being used. Because non-skaters aren't going to understand that like, oh, it's because the concrete's gravelly, or oh, it's because like the flow is weird. They probably don't even know what flow means, right? So, yeah, one of my hopes is that we can do our part to explain to these cities and spread the word about like, first of all, what makes a good skate park, but also why it is so essential to have quality skate parks for folks to practice at. Because people can love skateboarding and maybe even be like a street skater, but if they don't have the spaces to really like nurture that love for themselves, then they probably can't reach their full potential. And that's really something that's at the heart of all of this for me, is helping folks reach their full potential through the things that they're surrounded by providing better access and better quality places for them to practice their art.
My clients and I, we started off at $0. An agent actually only makes commissions. We don't get like salary. So $0, you know, 0%, 15% of $0 is still $0. But it's kind of cool because it puts us all in the same boat, you know. And I think it's kind of rebellious because it gives folks, it gives women an opportunity to talk about money in a way that societally, there's a stigma around that, right? Like, if a woman speaks about money, what does that mean? Is she, you know, I sometimes, at first, I say, like, oh, I don't want to occur, fill in the blank, right? Greedy, or whatever it is. So now we actually have this context where we get to talk about money in an empowered way. Just turn that upside down. And, you know, that's when I realized that what is money actually giving my clients? What they don't have is choice. They don't currently, you know, looking 6 years ago, we had no choice in our lived experience. We had no choice where we were gonna live. We didn't have choice. Like my clients were working full-time jobs during the day, skating at night, skating in shoes that didn't fit them because, you know, there weren't high-performance shoes that fit a woman's foot or a small foot on the market. So you had folks skating on television in X Games and shoes that were too big for them, for example. Like it was always a compromise. But what I found with each check that came in, it increased their choice. And so, you know, what I really realized is choice is power. They're totally connected, but what can give you choice? What can give you power? And it's actually money. Money giving someone choice. That's all we're trying to create. And at the same time, I really got present to how choice is a privilege. But what I found was, in that first year, people would be like, hey, can Leo Baker come out for this thing? Can Vanessa Torres come out for this thing? And I was like, oh, what is it? And they're like, oh, well, it's in New York. I'm like, okay. They're like, but it's a full day shoot. I was like, okay, for the brand, that you know about, that whatever, a recognizable brand. And I was like, and like, yeah. I was like, what? And then how much are you gonna pay for it? And they're like, oh, we're gonna cover the flight. I was like, well, yeah, shouldn't you of course cover the flight? Wait, what's happening here? And they're like, well, but you know what? It's it'd be good for them. And you're like, okay, so shoot, so good for them. Well, I can't argue that, and then I was like, well, hold on. So how about this? They weren't gonna be on that street corner in New York of their own accord, which means in terms of an opportunity, they could have been making maybe $300 on my street corner, like in my neighborhood doing another job. So you're arguably taking them off the market for X number of dollars, which you should compensate for. The time of travel, more time they could have been working. So how about you pay for that and the travel time and the travel, and how about regardless of any benefit to the client, I don't care. And if it benefits you, then you get to pay for that, regardless of whatever happens over here. And like, and then they sometimes would be like, oh yeah, but it's good for women's skateboarding. And then I'd be like, oh yeah, that not a 501c3 that you could donate money to. Oh wait, we're not a cause. So like, if I don't even know where to put your money to, how about that doesn't hold water either? But so those were funny. But thankfully, I mean, I didn't know how to answer those questions at first. They sounded logical when they said them, and then once you hear it more than once, and then you start to hear the inner voice, you know, my gut is maybe not as strong as theirs. They skate a lot. But thankfully, after about a year of that, and I felt like every conversation I was educating with this solution or justification that I pulled out of my butt, but really made sense to me and us. I really haven't heard that in the last couple of years. It's like now when someone calls, I'm just like, let me tell you what our last paycheck was, because that's now our floor.
It was a beautiful pathway to an opportunity that I could have only dreamed about. But there were some risks involved in terms of what it means for our culture. I competed in events prior to that, film video parts prior to that, but when I would go to these Olympic qualifying events, there were more women, I will say, which was really cool, girls of all ages, participants that were really pushing the boundaries of skateboarding, but it didn't really feel like the skateboarding that I fell in love with. It was very cutthroat, and obviously if you're going to compete, yes, there's a competitive nature about, but it was very different in these Olympic events. It was very much me versus you versus me versus the run I really want to do, or me versus that one trick I really hope to land during the contest. And so one of my biggest concerns as we continue to be an Olympic sport, not by choice, we're just forced to at this point, is that there are generations coming up in skateboarding right now that really see it very differently than we do. Maybe not as creatively, maybe not as community oriented, and some people are forced into skateboarding, which just sounds like an oxymoron, but it's true, and that some of these things are happening that are kind of diluting some aspects of our culture, but I can also see ways in which it's been very helpful in terms of nurturing growth globally.
Thank you so much for community. I just wanted to give you opportunity to say something that you love about your exposure, please.
Well, it's definitely a huge opportunity to be able to do exposure, and the reason that it started is when all these events were cutting back on their women's events, I just wanted to create opportunities. I'm going to speak very quickly because there's only 20 minutes left. I just wanted to create opportunities for non-male skateboarders and build events that really showcase this progressing, this growing field. And in addition to our main event, which is coming November 4th and 5th at Sanitas, we do Skate Rising, which is a youth clinic for girls 4 to 18 and provides not only compassion through service, but empowerment through skateboarding. So we teach girls to skate, but we also include them in community service opportunities where they can make kits for the homeless or bracelets for anti-bullying. And actually tomorrow we have a Seshi, which is our adult program, and we have skateboarding equipment, helmets, boards, pads. We have instructors, pros, and other Olympians as well that just teach people to skate, whatever level you're at. Please join us 3 p.m. tomorrow at the Sanitas Community Park. And we also offer college scholarships in partnership with CSEF for women, trans, and non-binary individuals who give back to their communities. And the best part of doing exposure is just bringing together people who love skateboarding.
Look at all cameras.
Looking beautiful, guys.